Hey, what's up, everybody? First of all, again, thanks to everyone who's gone up and helping out and subscribing on my Patreon page. Links down below. I'm going to upload a video to that page right after this about, I've been getting a lot of questions on my diet and what my beliefs are on eating healthy, living healthy. So pertaining more to food and just to, I'll share with you what I believe and my daily routine and habits are. I'll also post a video eventually up on the YouTube about that. So, in this video, I just want to remind everybody and talk about how your attention is your power. As you understand this more and more, you will be able to take more control over your life. And there's a lot of people who are doing this naturally and don't need to be aware of this and can sort of just sense it and behave and respond accordingly. But a lot of us have difficulty figuring out, identifying why things in our life might not be going, in the way that we want them to, why we're suffering, why we're struggling. And you can, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of ways to look at all of this. I have found that the simplest way, the most refined, distilled way to look at all of this is by becoming aware of your attention and what your attention is on. Because at the end of the day, your attention is sort of like the tip of the spear of your experience on this, in this existence. It's like the flashlight in the darkness. And what you put and shine that flashlight on, what you put and shine your attention on, becomes more powerful and more prevalent in your life. What that means is that, let's say if I every day put my attention on watching videos about jiu-jitsu or training jiu-jitsu, going to the gym, talking to my fellow teammates, watching interviews with fighters, and putting more of my attention on the topic of jiu-jitsu, then jiu-jitsu in my life will grow. I will become better at jiu-jitsu. Not only will it grow and I'll become better at it, but something happens that we all should be aware of as well, which is I will start creating a habit out of putting my attention on jiu-jitsu. It becomes a habit because what we do repetitively, including thinking or putting what we put our attention on, those things can become habits. They tend to become habits. What we do repetitively, repetition creates instinctual responses, creates habits. So I will wake up in the morning and I will be more inclined naturally to think about jiu-jitsu. Let's look at the other end of the spectrum. Let's say if I am putting my attention on something that doesn't serve me, like a lot of people who I work with and counsel and coach, just had a session wrapped up right now. Someone's having difficulty with this, overthinking about their ex, right? It doesn't have to be your ex. It can be about anything. Worrying about money. It can be worrying about people who are bullying you or irritating you or bothering you. It can be anything, right? Anything that you're putting your attention on. Now, if I'm putting my attention on, let's say, an ex, every day, thinking about them, what are they doing, what are they thinking, do they miss me, who are they with, all these thoughts. And by the way, all these thoughts are fine, they're okay, they're natural. We have them so that we can learn from the painful experience. Pain is what teaches us, what helps us grow. So when we experience pain, it's usually followed by a storm or a brainstorm of thinking. And the point of the brainstorm is so that we can learn, so that next time we're not going to have the same issue. That's the point of pain. And that's the process. It's a very simple process. It's not something we should overcomplicate. That's really what's going on. It's kind of like if I put my hand in a flame and I didn't know what fire was, well, now I know that it burns. And it's because of thinking that I learn. It's because of thinking that I adapt, that I grow. It's because of the pain that sparks off all the thoughts. Emotions, feelings, and thoughts are linked. They're like married. They trigger each other. So usually, thinking is difficult for us to be aware of. It's hard for us to put our attention onto thoughts. Thinking tends to just happen. And for the majority of people out there, it happens unconsciously, which means you're just driving, but you're in your thoughts. And you aren't aware of that. You're just sort of like taken for a ride. In my last video, I talked about how sugar is one of the greatest addictions for human beings of all time. Well, there's one addiction that comes up ranked, I would say, even higher than sugar, which is thinking. Our addiction to thoughts, to thinking. Or a better way, a more accurate way, I believe, to describe it is our addiction to putting our attention onto thoughts. Because thinking is a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with thinking. Thinking is amazing. It's what makes us different to every other creature on this planet, is our ability to think and to plan, to foresee, to forecast, to decipher, to look into the past, into our memory banks, to forecast, to create. This all comes from thinking. There's nothing wrong with thinking. Thinking is a beautiful thing. Of course, we can also create without thinking, instinctually, from the moment. But there's nothing wrong with thinking. What makes us even more special than all the creatures around us is not just that we're thinking, but we also have this additional layer that you can call it your attention. And what is it that you're putting your attention on? I can put my attention onto thinking, and I can create a habit of putting my attention onto thinking. I can also put my attention onto being in the moment. I can put my attention off thinking. I can put my attention onto doing. I can put my attention onto meditating, onto my breathing. I can put my attention onto drawing. I can put my attention onto gardening. I can put my attention onto anything. The list is endless. Onto playing video games. Playing video games, for the most part, you're not thinking. You're responding, reacting. Of course, there's going to be some thinking going on. And I think there will be some thinking going on all the time. And that's the beauty of our attention, is that our attention can be shared. It doesn't have to be only on one thing. In fact, I would say that it's very difficult and unnecessary to put all your attention onto one thing. That's the beauty of our attention. Our attention is like a light, as I said, like a flashlight in the darkness. And you can, like most flashlights, you can channel the beam so that it's more intense on one thing, or you can broaden the beam so it's on many things. So is true with your attention. You can split the power of your attention onto many things, or you can channel it, blast it into one thing. And I wouldn't say that there's a good or bad way to do it. There's going to be advantages and disadvantages of both ways. You know, some advantages of channeling your beam, like a lot of fighters, a lot of elite athletes, or a lot of elite people who are successful, they tend to be obsessed and they tend to focus on one thing or one or two things. They put blinders on. They're incredibly focused and they channel all their power, all their attention into one or two things. But there's disadvantages with that as well, right? You know, a lot of fighters, a lot of people that they depend and they focus on one thing, well, nothing lasts forever. So when your body changes and you can no longer be an athlete, a lot of them have problems with transitioning and doing other things. They become depressed, and you know, I'm not going to go into that, but I'm sure you guys um, can understand and figure out the problems with that. Um, but then again, if you have the other extreme where you're totally like trying to do everything and you never really are able to excel at one thing, well, then everything sort of like stays kind of, you're able to do a lot of things, but you know, it all stays kind of down and low. I like to describe it, the way that I like to look at it is like a garden. So you have a garden and your attention is like the water, and the things that you water the most, the things that you put your attention on more, are going to grow faster and grow healthier and become more prevalent. If I water the weeds in my backyard, let's say the weeds are like the negative thoughts or the limiting beliefs or the habits that we don't want, like watching porn or sexting or getting caught in dating in an unhealthy way. Whatever it is, alcohol, too much drugs, weed, too much weed, overeating, sugar, whatever it is, we all know what those things are in our lives, right? We can call them the things that don't serve us in life versus the things that do serve us. So if you look at a garden, there's going to be things that you want to grow. You want the fruit trees to grow so that they can give you fruit back. That's going to be the same as if I channel my attention and power that is behind my attention. When I channel my attention and my power into things that give back to me, that serve me, just like the fruit that will come back to me after I've invested in watering it, it gives me fruit. And there are things in life that will give you fruit. You invest in certain friendships or relationships, and it will come back to you. Those people will be there to listen to you, to support you, to energize you, to help you in some way down the line. Those are friendships worth your attention, or relationships worth your attention. Or it could be that I put my attention into jiu-jitsu or MMA or boxing or kickboxing or fighting or whatever. And the fruits that I get from that are, it helps me become stronger physically, mentally, it helps me become more focused. So there are fruits that I'm getting from there. So I will identify that as a tree that I want to water in my life. I will identify maybe 100 things in life, and then I will go down that list and I'll pick, these are the things that I want to put more water on. Here are the weeds, here are the fruit trees, here are the shade trees. I want to grow the oak trees, I want to grow the pine trees, I want to grow these shrubs and these herbs, I want to grow this grass, I want to grow these vines, these grapevines, these jasmine flowers, because they fill the air with beautiful scent. The grass just makes me feel better. So everything is going to have a different effect on you, and it's not going to give you the same type of serving you. It's not going to serve you in the same way. It's not going to be necessarily fruit that I'm going to eat. It's going to be the scent of the flowers or the shade provided by the oak tree in the hot summer. And that's going to be the same in your life. All the things in your life, write them down, identify all of them. Identify everything that you put your attention on from the moment you're awake to the moment you're asleep. And in fact, I would even list the things that you're dreaming about. That they're even more powerful because they're telling you, they're giving you an inkling, they're giving you a peek into your deep subconscious of what is going on in your mind, what your attention is on, what is important to you, what your attention has become, has grown habitual towards, and what your attention thinks it's important. Because when you put your attention more and more on something, you're tricking your mind into believing that is important to you. That is why your mind and your body makes it a habit, because it says, this person is putting his attention or her attention on porn a lot. So porn has to be important. So let's make it a habit. Let's make it so that this person wakes up in the morning, and let's help this person out and make this person think about porn as soon as he or she wakes up. But is it helping us out? No. We are evolving. And a lot of our biology and instinct and our psychology is still 100,000 years behind and influenced by those basic instincts. Sex, reproduction, survival is the ultimate one, right? So you think of porn, you think of this world of, this exciting world of sex and stimulation and naughtiness. Well, it's not about that. The root of it is survival. It's about sex. It's about reproduction. That's why it has such a powerful hold on us. Or that's why it can have a powerful hold on you. Because you have good reason to be interested in porn. You have good reason to be interested in sex. There is good reason for that. But understand that we are designed to think about those things not in the way that it's happening today. Because hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, these things were scarce. They weren't as accessible. Now they're abundant and easy and accessible, and it's not even the real thing, right? It's virtual sex, virtual survival. It's virtual survival. It's not true survival. They're actually having a counter effect on our survival. Rather than getting out and working and being alive and being a part of life and creating and doing and building and interacting and connecting and sharing, they're disabling us from all of that. They're making us dependent. They're making us, stagnant. They're like anchors. And as I described in my video a couple of videos ago, where I'm talking about modern day slavery, I believe that a lot of the blame should be placed on these big, the people benefiting from all of that, making all the money from the porn, from the drugs, from making us dependent, from getting us to overthink. Just looking at the news, looking at CNN. I mean, they are so responsible. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about Fox News, but all these major news organizations, CNN is constantly in a state of breaking news, because they figured out that people are sadly so easy to manipulate, so dumb that works every time. Breaking news, They've done it 1,000 times, 100 times a day, breaking news, but it's still, what's the breaking news? What's the breaking news? What's the breaking? Because they've managed to identify something in our instinct, something instinctual to us, that we have difficulties overriding because it's so hardwired into us that we want to know what is the breaking news, what is the news, how is this going to affect my survival? It comes down to survival again at the end of the day. So sex, fear, food, sugar, all these things, you've got to protect them. You've got to be a modern day warrior when you go out in this world, because we are being bombarded every day and hijacked for what? For our power, for our attention. CNN is trying to get your attention with breaking news, breaking news. Porn sites trying to get your attention and keep your attention. It's not enough that they want to get your attention, they want to keep your attention. So, as a modern day warrior in this very difficult world that's vying for your attention, that will do anything to get your attention. Is it your attention they want? It's your power they want. It's the power behind your attention that they are feeding off. It's the money that you pay. It's the time that you spend. It's the energy. It's the habits that you're creating, the addictions, the dependencies that you're creating. That's what they're after. Because behind it is money. Behind attention, behind the power is money. So as a modern day warrior out in this world, knowing all of this, it's important to protect your attention, to train your attention, because that's going to be where your happiness, your health, your peace, it's where all of it is going to come from. Your ability to handle your attention. Hey, what's up, everyone? Sorry about that little edit there. I was someone at the door. Even out in the middle of nowhere, which is where I live, up in the middle of the mountains, up in the middle of nowhere, maybe 30 minutes away from the nearest town, there's Jehovah's Witnesses making their way all the way up here to serve the message. So anyway, I'll wrap this up for now. And you might be wondering what's written on my arm here, so I'll share that with you. I love writing notes everywhere, leaving reminders around. And this one was one that I put on yesterday, which I'll share with everyone. I don't know if you can read it, but it basically says, "Are you enjoying yourself?" Just a reminder, because the world we live in, there are a lot of things that are going to be bringing us down, a lot. And I guess you could call this a reminder to come into, into enjoying the moment. Sometimes what happens is that something will happen, or some just person, or just an activity, or something will happen, and it will trigger your mind to go down the path of thinking, of thoughts, and the thoughts can stress you out. Could be stressful thinking, and as with everyone on Earth, I also experience this as well myself, because I'm not living on, well, I am living on a mountain, but I'm not in a Buddhist monastery. I'm a part of the world. I go out, I interact, I meet people, and the world isn't perfect, and it's difficult, and we're evolving, and there are people that are not at the same level of awareness as we are, and we're all going through different things. So the chances are you're going to bump into people, even out in the middle of nowhere, right? That are going to take your attention off what you were doing and put your attention on what they're doing. Just like these Jehovah's Witnesses, right? They want your attention on what they're doing, on what their belief is, and they want more attention on that, more power, right? So even out here in the boonies, in the middle of nowhere, there's going to be things we can't escape from, difficulties, from challenges, from things that are hard, from things that we don't necessarily want to do or be faced with. It's okay if they're going to exist. They're going to exist until the day we're on this earth. until the day we die. We're going to have difficulties. We're going to have difficult people. We're going to have, we're going to have all kinds of things being thrown at us. And that's fine. What's the beautiful thing? What's the great thing is that how you engage with those things, how you process them. That can be strengthened. That can be fine-tuned. You can create habits of that so that even though you're faced with something difficult, you will face it with ease. Or, as this reminds me, are you enjoying yourself? So it's okay to even enjoy, difficult things. Like, don't stress about it. Don't overthink. Don't let your mind go down this rabbit's hole of thinking that hurts you, makes you unhappy, frustrates you. Just it hurts you. It just creates tension in your mind, in your body. So checking in every now and again, sometimes writing things on your arm. I've been writing things on my arms for years as a way just to remind me. I think that's what tattoos, if I ever had tattoos, that's what they would be. They would be reminders. They'd be things that would serve you, right? So anyway, I'm going to continue this video on my Patreon page for my Patreon subscribers out there. And I'm going to post some videos up there about diet and nutrition and healthy eating and, my beliefs on eating, healthy and eating well. I believe, just very quickly, like having a very diverse, organic diet is the main thing for me, eating organically. I don't eat red meat too much. I'll eat it occasionally, but I try to stay away from red meat. I eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of herbs. Even I have issues with fruit as well, which I'll share with people on my video on nutrition. Fruit, for example, like many things, have been selectively bred. So the apples we get nowadays, the pineapples, the mangoes, the bananas, these are all a result of decades, if not centuries, of selective breeding. So people will think, oh, I'm going to eat healthy now, I'm going to eat fruit. Well, you're actually still not eating something that is natural. You're eating something where they've gone into a forest of apples, because the apple trees are, if you go and see an apple tree forest, every apple tree is different. They're diverse because to protect themselves. Just like humans, we're diverse to protect our species, because one virus, one bacteria that hits a specific apple tree strain will wipe out all of those apple trees, but then the rest of the forests, which are different, will survive. But what we've done is we've gone into the fruit trees, the apple tree forest, or the banana forest, or the pineapple forests, or the broccoli fields, and we've picked the ones that are the tastiest, the sweetest, the juiciest, the softest, the ones that we like the most. Then we take those and we breed those, and we make them even bigger, tastier, sweeter, until we get to what you see in the supermarket nowadays. So there's a lot to consider. I'm not saying that you've got to go track down the original apples or the original broccolis. If you look at the original broccoli, by the way, it's very thin and small and doesn't have such a big head on there. It's not, the broccoli we get nowadays, which we've just inflated the part that we like. So, but it's good to know these things, because we're still evolving. Our bodies still want some of that stuff, and still our bodies need some of that stuff. So we're kind of in a transition. And yes, if you focus and continue focusing on eating like what's available to us in the supermarket, we're eventually going to evolve and adapt to that, right? But maybe half of us are going to have, cancers, indigestion, all sorts of issues, right? Because we still want the things that our bodies adapted to from hundreds of years ago, the more raw foods. So I'm going to go into this more in depthly on my Patreon page, and I will post also eventually videos on the YouTube for everyone. But the gist of it is we're all different, and there's no one diet that that should suit everyone. It's ridiculous to think that. So you've got to, as the Greeks would put on their walls, on their entrances, which was also in the Matrix movie, know thyself. Your job is to know yourself. Know what serves you, know what doesn't. List them out. I have lists. These lists to me are like a Bible. It's like my own personal Bible, my own custom tailored Bible for myself, to know myself. I will make a list of all the things that improve my life. And then I'll make a list of all the things that hurt my life, that make my life worse. And then I work on putting my attention on the first list, more. It's not to say that you want to completely be a purist and take all your attention off the list of things that hurts you, because that's how we grow, right? That's how we learn. That's how we adapt, right? And which is something else I will mention in my videos about diet. I don't believe in eating 100% clean, organic, pure. I don't. I think that if you do that, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. That's also a version of extremism. I've learned through my own experience that that's not the healthiest, best way to live. I ate super clean for years and years and years. For maybe 8 years, I ate super, super clean. And then, when you're traveling and you don't have those super clean foods available to you, which is always a potential in life. You never know what's going to happen. Then your body will have difficulty, eating just whatever's available to you. So it's important that, balance is important. Anyway, I better stop rambling, otherwise this will go on for ages. So yeah, thanks again to everyone who's subscribing, who's sharing, who's liking, who's commenting, who's asking questions. Big special thanks to those people who have joined my Patreon page and are, helping out through there, and I will keep putting more of these videos up there for you guys, exclusively on that page for you guys. So thank you again, and I'm sending everybody out there all the very best. And the point of this channel, the point of all of this sharing is just so that we improve our lives. We're not trying to be perfect or anything, but just we want to move in the right direction, right? If you're banging your head against the wall repetitively, as some of the people I'm working with, banging their heads in the same direction, well, you got to realize at some point that, hey, maybe I should move a little bit this way and move forward. So I'll leave you all with that, and adios for now.